Doug Polk and Daniel Negreanu finally came face to face in yesterday's $300,000 Super High Roller Bowl as they were seated right next to each other. And I gotta say, it went about as awkward as you might expect it to go. If you watched yesterday's action for the 300K Super High Roller Bowl on Poker Go, you saw some fun action. You saw a Phil Hellmuth temper tantrum and maybe a couple and a speech. You saw Phil Ivey looking like he kind of wanted to kill someone at the table. And we got to hear Nick Schulman on the commentary providing a very eloquently, well adjectived, versed commentary. I guess I'd say that. I don't really know how to explain Nick Schulman's commentary style. And we also saw Doug Polk put on a little strip show as he turned into a Las Vegas stripper and took off his shirt for Daniel Negreanu and the rest of the poker table and revealed the more rake is better shirt. So we'll talk a little bit more about those things in addition to what I thought the Super High Roller Bowl did well, and one thing that I think they could do a lot better job of in future episodes. So I think the big story everyone was worried about or was talking about on Twitter was when Doug Polk turned into a stripper and took off his shirt. He had a button-on shirt for the first couple hours of the broadcast yesterday, and then he took it off. He had a more rake is better shirt, and I don't think Daniel and Doug actually said a word to each other. If you guys follow along with Twitter, follow along with YouTube, you know Daniel and Doug have a serious beef with each other. There was an alleged incident at a hockey game where someone cold shoulder. I think Doug told the story where Daniel shouldered him at the hockey game and said ill, allegedly. We don't know if that's true or not. But yesterday we got to see these two, and the bad blood is real. We did get to see them mix up in a couple pots, but for the most part, it seemed like Daniel had the better end of the big hands, of the small amount of big hands that those two played. And yeah, I think the vibe on Twitter, some people really enjoyed it. Some people said, "Come on, isn't this getting a little bit old? Isn't this played out? Isn't this joke tired? We're had enough of this. All right, can we just drop the more rake is better?" And I get where those people are coming from, but at the same time, you guys got to understand is that this is it's a joke, but at the same time, this is kind of what sites are doing. This is where poker's kind of going to in some areas, and it could go that way even higher in the future in live poker too. Is that while it is a joke, more rake is better, we're kind of kidding about that, but at the same time, this is going to be potentially the future of poker. So while some people might think this isn't the way to do it, I do think it's good to continue to draw awareness to what's happening. And now, did he need to do it in that way? Maybe not. Is it a little disrespectful to Daniel potentially at the table like that? I don't really know. Is it funny? Yes. Is it entertaining? Yes. And I don't know. It was certainly a highlight for a lot of people out there in yesterday's event. Of course, we had Phil Hellmuth, who showed up late I don't know Phil Hellmuth about this guy. I don't know. Every time he gives a speech, he's always berating other players for something that they did. He's talking about how he's so much better than they are, and kind of it's the same thing over and over again at this point in time. And I think that if we're getting to see some good play, if we're getting to see some high level play, then that's a different story. But if we get to see yesterday, shows up late, kind of the normal thing, but just showing up late to this, and I don't know, man. I feel like that to me. I don't know, man. I want to see Hellmuth play. I want to see him come. I want to see him, compete. I want to see him play at a high level. And I think what I saw yesterday, I didn't see that from the very small amount of hands we played. And he gave a speech at the end. He talked about how these guys travel around the world and they think they're the best players in the world because they're the ones that are traveling around playing these high rollers, when he said there's about 50 or 60 players traveling who thinks they're better than these guys, but they just don't travel to all the high rollers. And I think he makes a decent point, but I don't know about if we can take Hellmuth in terms of his assessment of someone's game for I don't know, take a lot of credibility. I don't know how much he's really playing with these guys outside of maybe a couple deep WPT stops or a couple World Series of Poker Circuit stops, and then the World Series of Poker. If you're only playing poker a month and a half out of the year, I don't know. I just don't really take your opinion that serious when it comes to assessing who the best players in the world are. And I don't know. I know he's playing a lot of private games. He's playing a lot with Golden State Warriors or players like that. But I highly doubt he's putting in that much volume against the top players in the world, or these players that are allegedly better than these players who are playing the high rollers. And I think one of the things that goes into, are you one of the great players or one of the best players, is, are you competing against the best players? Now, if you're not out there and competing against the best players, or we don't see you competing against the best players, then you can understand why we're going to say, okay, well, these are kind of the top players. It's how else are we going to quantify? If we're going to quantify most bracelets as some sort of skill, because that's what we see. If that's going to make you the best tournament player in the world because you have the most bracelets, well, then you can't really say that, okay, these guys aren't the best players because they're competing against each other, and whoever has the best results, we could say those players might be the best players of those batches. If we're going to quantify best player by bracelets, then we need to quantify best player by success in these events, because this is really all we have to go off of. So kind of a poor showing by Hellmuth. Is he washed up, guys? I don't really know. Does Negreanu officially pass him up on the all-time list here as the best player? I don't know. I feel like the best player of all time or the best tournament player of all time, that evolves over time, and we can take longevity into it. We take results. We take different things like that. The ability to get staked, the ability to sell action is going to matter in terms of longevity for these things. And I don't know. With Negreanu hitting the lab for 2 months and coming out kid GTO, I feel like Negreanu maybe overtaken Hellmuth. Maybe he overtook Hellmuth a long time ago. I don't know. That's my Stephen A. I'm trying to give a Stephen A. Smith thing where I give a hot take like that. Is Phil Hellmuth, is he lost his ability to win at poker? Will he ever win again? Is Daniel Negreanu the best? Is he playing GTO at the highest level of anybody? I don't know. Kind of is what it was. A couple other things. Phil Ivey was in the mix yesterday, guys. And Phil Ivey, I don't know, man. He looked a little beat down. Looked like he'd been playing a lot of poker lately. I've been in modes like that before too, where I kind of look like I want to die, or I look like I haven't showered in a few days or whatever. But it was great to see him back. Great to see him compete. He's still in it going on day 2. Daniel Negreanu, by the way, is chip lead, guys, going into day 2 as well. So yeah, it's just always good to see Ivey kind of interact with the young guns. And I've actually never seen a poker player more big time or big timey to other players than Ivey. I think it's kind of like very subtle things he does, or subtle ways he communicates, or kind of acting like he doesn't hear people, and maybe he doesn't, maybe this is all nonchalant, but these are things I've noticed in the past that Ivey does, where it just has this very big time vibe about him, and maybe, he is big time, so sure he can act like that, but I think if other players acted that way, we might say some different things, because it's Ivey and everybody loves a winner, and everyone loves the great players. I think a lot of players just, kind of overlook it and say, oh, that's just Phil Ivey. But overall, it was very fun to watch him play. And Nick Schulman's commentary, of course, Nick Schulman, I don't know, man, this man has a gift for poker commentary. And I feel like I said on Twitter, I'd pay him $10 a month to listen to him commentate on just very random things. I don't care what it is. A kid's soccer game, my mom going to the grocery store and driving in traffic and yelling at everybody. I don't know, I feel like he adds a certain romantic element to poker that they just don't get to really see from anyone else. And towards the end, when him and Ali, they have a good rapport back and forth, and they open up a little bit with the sarcasm. And I don't really realize that Nick is that sarcastic until he starts really flowing with things. And I don't know, it's just a very fun commentary. Definitely one of the highlights of the show for me. And kind of some other things about the players. I really felt like the players, to me, kind of came off interchangeable in a little bit of ways, where what distinguishes these guys from the other guys? To me, even if I know the guys, nothing much from if I watch the broadcast. And now that's part of the players themselves kind of being silent, not saying much, focusing on the game. But I think that also kind of comes off on Poker Go and the Super High Rollable side. And this is something I've noticed they did a poor job of in the past, is that they don't really show all the players. I think some people were wondering, why weren't the mics working to begin with? Why did it start late? And now technical difficulties for why the mics weren't working. I don't know why they didn't start on time. Whether it matters that much or not, who really knows. But yeah, I thought the outer tables, they could have shown those more. They could have had microphones on the outer tables for those players. I mean, we could have maybe got some shots of those outer tables. I just think overall, a lot of the players weren't even shown. There's some guys, I actually don't even know who some of these players are in this event, and they didn't bring them up in day 1. Now, I know these players might fill things out, or you might have someone who finds information about the players, but I think they could do so much of a better job explaining who these people are in a bit more detail, outside of Dan Smith plays chess, or Nick Petrangelo, likes to go to the grocery store or something like that. They give you this one fact about someone and that's it. And then, I don't know, there's so much time to talk about these players. Why don't they give us more facts about these guys? Why don't they tell us more about their results lately, or more about their background, or more about their favorite thing to do right now, or just something that differentiates the players from each other? A Seth Davies from a Nick Petrangelo, or a Dan Smith from a Nick Petrangelo, something like that. A Rainer Kempe from the other German players. Why don't we have some things that differentiate them and kind of explain that to the viewing audience out there, myself included, because these are things I want to know. So yeah, I just think that there could be a lot more action shown on these outer tables, and the players shown like a Sam Salver, at least mention the guy's name, maybe twice or 3 times or something like that. I don't know. That's kind of the big thing that I've noticed last year, and that's what I noticed this year. But overall, very beautiful performance. I mean, where else are you going to find this type of setup, this type of this type of vibes, this type of energy with the show? Beautiful show, and I applaud them for even having this event and putting out something that I think has turned into a very prestigious event. But yeah, I definitely want to know what you guys at home thought about the event. I didn't really see much chatter on social media, and I put something on Instagram about it, people watching, and we kind of had a few hundred people say they were, and then a bunch of people say they weren't. And I don't know how to gauge the success of this. I don't know how to gauge how many people are watching. I feel like in the past, I don't know, I feel like we had a lot more conversation and hot takes, and now I think the play was overall a lot better this year. So there really wasn't anyone, we got a lot of experts out there who come out and say, oh, this guy's trash, this guy's shit, what is this idiot doing, this hand, so like, why would they do this? But I think for the most part, the main feature table play we had was really, really good. We had some very great players in the mix there, and I don't know if there was really much to criticize out there at home from some of the people on Twitter. But yeah, I don't know. What were you guys think? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? What do you think could have been done better? What was your highlight moment? I think my highlight moment for me was probably when Doug took off the shirt and said Warwick's better. But also when Doug busted and Daniel looked at him and smiled. That was kind of funny too. That was interesting. So, but yeah, I'm ready for day 2 today, guys. It'll be on here in a couple hours. So yeah, that's it. Much love. Peace out. Take care. You can follow along with me on Twitter. You can follow along with me on Twitter at JoeIngram1 or on Instagram, PopBGTO, and I'll be kind of posting my thoughts during the event today.